Hello everyone. I wanted to make a book page village. I want to make I want to call it, I want to say that it's a folding book page village. So what I'm using is this old Reader's Digest book. And I just love the color of the pages, and I don't want them to be real big, so that was a good book to use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Mod Podge together 2 pages at a time, and for each house in my village I'm actually going to need 2 sets of these pages. So I'm just going to, and when I Mod Podge pages together, I usually just do the text block, because that gives my Mod Podge a little bit of escape room, so that when I put my next piece of paper down on it, it doesn't squash out all over everywhere. It depends on what I'm doing, but for this project, that's what I'm going to do. And I use a mixture of Mod Podge and Elmer's Glue All. It's a little less sticky than just Mod Podge. And I'm just going to take my plastic card and squish these. Now see, it even came out, even though I left room, it came out on the table. So I'm just going to do that like that. And like I said, for each building, you're going to need 2 of these. So you're going to want to do a fair number of pages. We want our pages to be able to stand up. And I would highly recommend you letting them dry. Before you go on. It makes it much easier if they're dry. But I prepared some dry pages so that we could just continue. And what I do is I cut off, I don't want any of the edges on this particular project. So what I did was I went through and I cut off the bottom and the 2 sides with my paper cutter. I'll show you, I'll get this little bit last off. Let me get rid of these. And I just trimmed it up like so, taking the edges off the page. I didn't worry about the top because we're going to cut angles at the tops, so I thought that would be fine. Oh, I need that paper trimmer. So I have a little stack of these all ready to go. I also have a leftover piece of file folder. Now, any medium lightweight cardstock would do, but this happened to be a leftover piece and it works perfectly. And I'm going to cut 1-inch strips of this file folder. And then we want to score it on the 1/2-inch line. Wants to wiggle. we need a bunch of those. These are going to go between your village buildings. And I'm going to go ahead and fold them a little bit. It just makes it easier to work with them. That one didn't get scored perfectly, and I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so now I have several of those. Now each building, like I said, requires 2 of these glued together pages or Mod Podge together pages. What you do is you decide how wide you want your building, and you cut them both exactly the same width. This one's going to be 2 3/4 inch wide. Okay? And then with them held together, you give it a roof line. And remember, not all buildings are the same. Not all roofs are the same. So what I've done is I've gone through and I have cut out some buildings. And like I said, I've got, this one has a double peak. I've got 2 of each piece. Okay? Now we're going to put them together. And we're going to use these little strips to put them together. And let me see if you can see it. You cannot see it. So I'm going to move this over here so you can see better. What we have to do is we have to put these strips between our buildings. And I'm just going to work with this one first. Let's move this one out of the way. I'm going to take my glue stick, and I decided to use glue stick because it was just an easier glue to work with for this. I usually use something like an old catalog or magazine over here to the right of me so that I can get the glue right out to the edge, because you really need to get the glue on the edges. Okay? And then we're going to fold this piece, and we're going to lay the fold line. Let me zoom you in. Okay, let's get this out of the way. We're going to put this fold line right off the edge. It's not right on the very edge, it's just off of it, just a little bit. And then we're going to need another one, and we're going to put it on the other side. Let me make sure you can see. I definitely don't want any of my little house to stick out. And we're going to squish it down real well. Okay. Now we have to take the matching house and put glue on the side that's going to glue down to this house. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to come over here to my magazine and make sure that the glue is really, really all over the edges. And then I'm going to turn this one upside down, and I am going to set it right in there on top of this. Okay, when you turn it over, you see they're wedged in there. Okay, So now we're going to do that on this side. We're just going to use this building right here. Now don't worry if your buildings don't match up at the top. You need your buildings to match up on the bottom because they're going to stand up. And remember, get those edges really good. Now here, you see I've left a little bit of room, and I'm gonna fold this down. And I've just lined it up across the bottom right there. Now I need another piece of this, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing over here that I did over here. I'm just gonna, I sometimes have to turn it so that I can see what I'm doing. I just want the file folder piece to hang off the edge just a little bit. Don't want it to bind when it folds. And then always make sure that you get the right side sticky, because if you mess up, you've got glue all over one of your buildings. And always make sure to get your edges really covered with glue. Now I put glue all over the piece. I do not just glue the edges. And the glue, the fact that we put glue on both sides all over helps it to stay together too. And then I just bring this one in and sit it in between. Now your buildings don't always have to have pointy roofs, remember. Sometimes they can have straight roofs because, you know, villages might have an apartment building. Like this one. This is a building with an apartment building. So I'm going to just attach these right here. Always make sure you have an extra strip ready. Remember, if we just sit it down, give ourselves a little bit of room, and open it up. And then line this one up. Can you still see? Yeah. To where it's just overlapping just a little bit. And again, remember to make sure you're putting glue on the right side. Now you want to make sure you get everything stuck real well. My fingers are sticky. Okay, so once we get, say 3 of them together, now we're going to have to put some more buildings out here on the ends, but right this minute we're going to trim in between the 2 buildings and get rid of this extra piece. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm just going to come in here with my scissors, clip to the fold, go up and cut along the line of the next roof. I didn't quite trim that off well enough. There we go. Then I'm going to cut this one like so. Cut down the fold and cut like this. Can you see? No. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Now, I want to do a little sewing around these. I want to sew around each house. Just give it a stitch line with my sewing machine. But these have to dry. And so what I would suggest, and also if we had the book all the way finished, you know, with all of the things, let me back out a little bit, I'm sorry. All of them put together, it'd be very hard. If I only have to sew around a few of them with them all put together, I'll be a whole lot better off. So I'm going to put the books together in about sets of 3, like so, or the houses together, in about sets of 3 like so, and then I'm going to take them to the sewing machine and stitch around them. Now you don't have to stitch around them. You could do what's called pin stitching, and let me show you what I'm talking about with that. Let me trim this off. We always have to have an experiment. But if I have them in smaller sections, it'll be easier to sew. But pin stitching is where you take an ink pen, and this is a Micron 08 pin. Let me bring you back in again. Sorry, I hope I'm not making you seasick. And you just go around your edge and make little dashed lines. Hoping you can see that. Let me bring it in even a little further if I can. So if you don't want to sew around it, you could do this kind of stitching, or you could not do any stitching like that. I mean, you don't have to stitch around it. I just want to. The thing of it is if you're going to the sewing machine, you want to make sure your glue is completely dry. Okay? So, and I mean completely dry, because if you don't, then it's going to be sticky on your needle. So, I am going to continue to put a few more sections of 3 together. Back out. Oops. Let them get dry and stitch around them. And then when I go to put the pieces together, I won't have quite so much that I have to wiggle around and make it difficult. These smaller pieces will be easier to sew around. So I will be back when I get all the pieces put together and all this ready to sew around. Now remember that these pieces out here on the sides have to have a house to put them together. So you're going to need enough pages And you can make this as big as you want. You can make as many houses as you want, because we're going to put this together like so later. Okay? So I'll be back in just a little while. Have fun. Hi everybody. I finally got this stitched all up. Now, like I said, I sewed around all of these with a sewing machine, but you could do pin stitching around yours if you wanted to. If you don't want to sew it, it can get kind of cumbersome. And the reason I did it in 3 sections is because these pieces are going to get harder to do. So now I need to attach the 3 pieces and put ends on each of the pieces. I do want to tell you to watch out for something. And let me bring you in so that you can see it good. If you can't tell, see, this one kind of goes in an upward line. It's not quite square right here. Therefore, I'm using it at the very end of my book, the last page, basically, so that it does stand up very nice. And I think it will be fine, but watch out for that when you're putting the pieces together, because it does make a difference in how well it's gonna lay. And I think it will be fine. At the same time, I was not paying attention and not watching that, so it would be something to watch out for. Let me take you back out so you can see good. I hope I don't make you seasick. So what we need to do now is we need to put our pieces together here, and on each end we're going to put one in. So I have chosen some fairly tall, not too wide pieces to put on the end, because when it gets all folded up, this will be the position where we put it in our cover. If you put it in a cover, you don't have to. And to do this, we're going to do just what we did before. We're going to glue the 2 pieces together, but we won't have a hinge on this other side. So I'm going to use my glue stick again, and remember, make sure you get a real good cover of glue, especially on your edges. Now I am using this Elmer's Extreme Glue Stick. I really like them as far as glue sticks go. And then remember that we make sure we've got this the right direction. We flip it over and we put glue on it. And it's always good to take a card and really make it get in. Okay. And then we're going to just slide this down. You can fold it up if you need to. And we're going to put the next piece to put it together there, just like we did our original pieces. The biggest thing is that to sew it on the sewing machine, if you were going to pin stitch it, you could have put it all together at one time. But for me, to sew it together on the sewing machine, I knew that I needed a little bit of, I needed to make it easier, put it in 3 pieces and get that part done, because the ones in the middle are going to be a little more difficult to put together. Doesn't want to go for some reason. There we go. I'm sure that it's not going to be perfectly straight, but at the same time, like I said, if you watch your edges a little bit closer than I was watching mine, you should be a little better off. And again, make sure that always make sure that you've got the right side, that you're not flipping them over, especially, and I did not measure or check the angles of my roof lines. I just cut them off. So they're not exactly the same on both sides. Now, like as before, when you get these put together, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut off this excess of your hinge. And I have a little more hinge showing than I might like, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to fix that. After it's all dry and everything's sewn, I had a plan. It'll all blend together. That didn't cut out of there very nicely. Okay, I have one more spot I have to put it together here, and I have to put another piece on this end, and I need to let it dry and sew that up, and then I'll be back to show you how to blend in the little hinges. Hi everybody, so I'm back. I have my whole entire piece all stitched together, all the sections stitched together. And I told you when we did this and that the fact that the hinges are not the same color, I would show you how to fix that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some ink, and this happens to be Distress Ink Vintage Photo by Ranger. And we are going to ink all of the edges. We're just going to go all the way around, and when you do this part, and I did not worry about whether or not I was making them all even. I just got it inked up. I did get some of it done beforehand so that you wouldn't have to sit here through the whole thing. And I just made sure to ink all those little edges like that. Okay. It's a little hard to do with it on camera. It wanted to lay in my lap and go off the table the other day. But I did ink along the roof line where the hinges are, and I inked along the bottom as well. I wanted it kind of a aged look. Now, if you didn't want to do that, that's okay too. It's kind of on the order of a vintage village since it's all vintage pages. Looks like I got some ink up there that I didn't intend, so we'll just over ink the edge a little bit. Oh, I know what I did. I laid it in the ink pad. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do the whole thing. Like so. Okay? And then you're going to want to ink the back. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to fold it up. And I just accordion folded it. Now, there is a spot here. I've got kind of one extra little guy in there. I didn't worry about it. I just didn't fold that one completely. I just left it like that. So what happens is that let me put it this way. The front and the back open up the same. Really wouldn't have to, but they do. And I get it into this compact little space. Because what we want to do is we need some covers. And this is just this is a little heavier than normal cereal box cardboard. It's very thin corrugated cardboard. 2 packages of cereal come in this at the same time. So what I have done is I want the book is going to have to sit at the bottom of the cover like so, because it's if we stand it up and we pull it out like this, the cover's got to be able to sit on the table. So I gave myself, after I folded it up all nice and neat, I gave myself 1/2 inch on each side and a good half, almost 3/4 of an inch up the top. Now, what I want to do is cut this off in an angle. You could make your book straight, but I wanted to make it look like a little house. So I just cut my cardboard. Now, one thing about cutting corrugated cardboard is that it takes a little time, and you just need to do it gently until it cuts. Now you could cut this with scissors, I'm sure. I just find it easier to cut with the knife. Okay. And what you're going to need is you're going to need 2 of them, because you want one for the front and you want one for the back. Okay. Let me put this out of the way. Because the next thing you need to do is you need to cover this. I have to cover this anyways with some gesso. This design, I don't want it to show through my paper when I put my paper over it, so I need to have a little gesso on here. Okay, come on now. There we go. And I found that you need more than 1 coat. I'll just show you the other one right now. I just put gesso on here like so. And I did 2 coats of gesso and a coat of paint to knock down this design. So I'll go back and finish that up later. Okay. And we're just going to set this aside. Now, I didn't worry about the back side of the cardboard because the pages are going to cover up the cardboard. It was just this. See, even with painting it once, you can see that. And frankly, you can still see this. I'm sure you can see the design. And I've put 2 coats of gesso and a coat of paint on there. So you want to knock that down a little. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine now. And then I have more of the same book pages that I use for my village. And I am going to take these side pieces off. Now, I like them in some things, but for this particular project, I'm going to take them off. So I'm going to take them I meant to do some of that before. And I'll save those because they're fun to use in projects. Let's get this done. Sorry guys, I should have had that done. Now if you notice, paper tears one way real easy and the other way not so easy. Paper has a grain to it, and that's why this happens. And you could just put those in and they would be fine. I just really didn't want to. And I'm going to collage these pieces on here in all kinds of directions. Now the houses I made all stand right side up. This I'm going to put down just every which way. The other thing is that when I put these pieces on here, I am going to wrap them around the edge, like so. Okay? Because I want to do both sides the same. So I'll have to wrap them around the edge, and then what I will do is I will take something like this and sit it up on there so that it can dry underneath and not be stuck to anything. Okay. I'm going to use Mod Podge to do that. And I'm going to Mod Podge over the top of the pieces. Like so. Okay, I'm just going to flip it over and show you how I'm going to do the edges. It helps to have a little card and to make your paper fold. Just like so. Now I'm not worrying about that right now. About this, it's going to get messed up a little bit. Let me get the front finished and show you everything, and then guess I should have left the whole thing until you. Now another reason I wanted to wrap the edges is because this is corrugated cardboard, and I just didn't really want that corrugated area to show. So I missed a spot. There we go. Oops, I'm not sure. There we go. I wasn't quite sure that it had gotten everything glued under there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to get these all flipped over to the top. And then I'll turn it back over and put another coat of Mod Podge on it just so that it seals it up a little bit better. Because right now it's stuck to my craft mat. Okay, this is one of the reasons I wanted to stay on. See, this one is just doubling up, and I don't really want that all doubled up in there, so I'm just tearing it back. Just because you want it to, it doesn't want to tear back. And then we'll fold them up. Like so. Now you're going to want to go over all of the edges here with some Mod Podge. We're going to come back over that later, so doesn't have to be perfect. And then when you turn this back over, you need to clean up your mess before you go on Oh, sorry guys, it's stuck real bad. Okay. Alright. That's why you want to have something prepared to sit it on. Now I could have let it dry and wrap the edges later, but then sometimes they get stiff and then it's hard to wrap the edges around. So we're just going to work on it just like so. And we'll bring this edge back up. And this one over. And now, because we got that stuck to our mat, we're going to just put a nice little coat of Mod Podge on there. Oops, slime all over. The second side's easier, actually. There we go. And now we got a nice smooth coat of Mod Podge on the top side. Now I'm going to just let that dry, and I'm going to get both pieces covered and back and front, and then I'll be back to finish up the book. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye. Okay, so we have both of our covers done. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I've got both the covers covered on both sides, and I decided since I had inked everything else, I would do a little ink around the covers of the book. The Mod Podge that I used does not take the ink quite as well as the paper did, but at the same time it's just a little bit distressed, and that's fine. Oops, well, it's way far in, but that's okay. You see, it takes a little bit more to ink it. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now, I want to see about putting some holes in this book, because this is going to expand like so. I need to have it where it ties on both sides to keep it closed so it can go on the shelf. So what I need to do is I'm going to put in some ribbon as ties. That is, if the ribbon allows me to open it. And I may have to... That is interesting. I can't get it open. I may have to put a bead on the end of the ribbon. So I need to mark where I'm going to put the ties. And I think I'm going to put them about 1/4 inch in, and probably about 3.5 inches up. No, I don't like that. That needs to be a little lower. There we go. So only about 3 inches up. And I want to do that to both sides. There was a little bit of a curve in the boards that was before I actually covered them, and now it's a little bit more pronounced. I haven't worried about it. I figure after the book is all finished, it should be fine. And if it's not, I'll put it between some books for a little while. It's not badly curved. It's just a little bit curved. Now I have these fun little hole punchers. It's just a little round hole punch. These will punch metal, so they usually will punch right through cardboard. I'm not going to try to put the ribbon in it until I actually get the book put together, though. I want to make sure that the holes were in it. I think it'll be easier not having the ribbons in the way when I go to set the book in. Now, if you remember, I made the book so that it's about a ½ an inch bigger all the way around, because as it folds back and forth, it has some width to it. And I'm going to mount this one, and then I'm going to mount this one. So I'm going to put this down like so. And I have to get the bottom kind of lined up, because as the book stands up, we want all of the bottom pieces to be down here. And this is just double-sided sticky tape. I better make sure I didn't slide off camera. Sorry, guys. And you want to burnish it down. And then I'm going to use tacky glue in the middle. Remember, this part is going to hold the whole book together, so it's important that it stays attached. Okay. Now I'm going to pull this tape off of here. I always have trouble with this stuff for some reason. If you do, sometimes it helps to have a pokey tool to get it up. There we go. I maybe didn't get it burnished down very well. That may be the problem. Now the reason for the tape and the glue is that the tape will hold it in place until the glue can dry, and it will allow me to position it a little bit better so that I can flip it over and actually push it down. Yep. There we go. Okay. Now, as I said, I'm going to center this. I'm going to stand it up, make sure that it stands nice. And then I'm going to take my other cover and line it up with the bottom cover. And just set it down on top. And if you remember, I told you that my book was off just a little bit, but it also is way off. Okay, we're going to do that again, guys. I do not like the placement of it. It's not on there well. I must have slid it. Can you see? There we go. Okay, now we want to just push it down. And then we're going to flip it over. And now we're going to do the same thing and put this cover on. And tacky glue. This tape comes off much better. This paper comes off much better if the tape is actually burnished down real well. I just really did not get that first set burnished down very well, I think. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to turn this upside down. I'm going to line it up. Push this down. And I'm going to pull this over and just... Okay. Now, we want to put our little ribbons on. So, I'm going to take this ribbon, and I got out some seed beads. These are size 6 seed beads, and I'm just going to take... Let's see if I can get this ribbon through this bead. I may have to get a needle, and that may not go through. If not, I'll just use a knot. It doesn't have to have the seed bead, I don't think, to stay in, but I was hoping to just add a little decoration. And it just may be that the hole is too small. Yep. It's not going to go through there. I'm not going to fight with it. So... oh dear. I'm just putting the ribbon through this needle. I'm just using the needle to help it go through the hole. Goodness. There we go. And I'm going to tie this in a knot. And I'm actually going to put 2 knots in it just because I don't want it to come back through the hole at all. And I'll pull it. Let's see, we need about... It's always better to have too much than not enough. So... Okay, so now we can tie this into a fun little bow. This is just some satin ribbon with a little gold dot on it. I just thought it'd be cute with the color of the book, so. Okay. Okay, and there's our little village book. Now, let me back up. The idea behind this little book is that it will stand up. So when you open it, it stands up like so. Now you can't see that very well. And so hopefully I can add some pictures in here. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but I'm going to try so that I can add pictures so that you can see the pictures, because it's very cute standing all up in a row like a neighborhood. One of the things I was going to tell you is that well, you can flip the pages too. That's kind of fun. But if you want, and I'm not going to because I don't think I want to. I think I want to leave it plain. But if you want, you can take a black paint pen or marker and you can give it doors and windows. Maybe a tall window up here. Like so. That's just a, I mean, you could also put black paper for the windows too, but I just wanted it like so. So this is our little village book, and I'm so glad you were here to watch me play with it. I think it's supposed to open this way. I think this is the front. Yeah, it is. And let me read you a quote from my 1001 Ways to Creativity. It says, "Set out to please nobody but yourself. You can't be creative if you are worried about what others will make of what you create." That is so true. Okay, guys, I hope you had fun watching this. I hope it was fun. It's fun for you to see made as it was for me to make. I really enjoyed it. It's fun, kind of interactive kind of thing. So, you guys have a great afternoon. Make some art. Enjoy the day. Bye-bye.